Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Here you'll get all of the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's dive into today's episode. All right. Well, welcome to today's episode. And I'm so excited to have Rita here. And I have to say right away, Rita, that you just wrote a book and I can't wait for you to talk about that. So please introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
Well, you just wrote a book too. So we're two authors celebrating our new books together,
Yeah,
which is
yes,
that's so much fun, right? I am Rita Ernst. I own Ignite Your Extraordinary, which is a consulting firm located in Louisville, Kentucky, but I work with people all over the US and in Canada. I don't go much more international than that. I don't know why. That could be in my future state, but
yes.
I'm like plenty busy doing what I do right now. And I am an organizational psychologist. So my expertise is in teams and organizations and how it is that people come together in the workplace to find common purpose and accomplish hopefully great things together. And so that's what I went to school to do. It's been my entire career. So I'm not new to coaching or consulting. I didn't make a shift in the pandemic in that regard. My authorship became my shift in the pandemic, but I've been doing this for my full career, and it is my heart's love. And I love my work. I love my clients. And I am happy to be here to talk about my journey with you and your audience today.
I'm so glad. Well, tell us more about the book. Tell us the name, tell us how it came to be, and anything that you want to share around how it feels to have your voice out there in this book.
Well, that is definitely part of the confidence journey for sure, right? Putting your voice out there is a huge thing. So the name of the book is Show Up Positive. And I was inspired to write this book because of the pandemic. And early on in my career, when I emerged out of my graduate school program, we still had manufacturing. Remember the days when we had manufacturers in the US? We actually had all kinds of manufacturing in the US. And we were trying to bring the Japanese team-based organizational processes into our factories because we were getting our butts handed to us on the economics of competitiveness because it costs so much to create goods in the US. And we thought there were all of these quality and productivity enhancements to be gained by the way the Japanese were conducting their similar businesses. And so that was where I started, which was a lot of work around teams and cultures. And then over time, that business went away. We became more of a service-based economy. And in that shift, my work shifted in a lot of ways. And the pandemic kind of brought all that back, we just sort of drifted backwards a little bit because, we're still talking about service-based organizations, but people were having these difficult moments that they had never experienced before in their work lives. And especially for millennials that were trying to lead during this time, they'd never known this kind of hardship. They'd never known this kind of disgruntlement and feeling a little bit at a loss as to what to do. And, most leaders have good hearts. And because they have good hearts, they want to fix things for their employees. And so I found all of these leaders who were trying their hardest to be fixers and to make it right. But what they didn't know was all the stuff I knew about teams and people inside of organizations, and that you can't do it to other people. You have to do it with other people. And I needed to show them ways of convening conversations in their organizations that allowed people to come together and get their belongingness reconnected and their affiliation reconnected. And they took to the work very easily, but it was just something they didn't know, they hadn't seen. But I went way back in my toolkit, and pulled forward to this moment in time. And so the book Show Up Positive has kind of three basic premises, Karen. One is culture starts inside of you. Stop looking at everybody else, looking all around you, looking up at the top of the organization and thinking culture is somebody else's job. And stand in the mirror and look in your own face, because you show up every day and you are part of the culture. And you either continue the behaviors of the culture, or you might stand on the sideline and give it side eye, but you're basically condoning it when you do that, or you stand firm to change it. Mm-hmm. But you don't really get to remove yourself from this equation. Every person in the organization contributes to what is happening in the organization, either directly, indirectly, or by default, right? And so choose where you want to play. I'm inviting people to play directly. Recognize your agency and your power and claim it and use it directly. So that's number two, is that you have the, one is the culture starts in you. Two is you have the agency to bring forward whatever you want. And three is when you choose to show up differently than what is causing all the disgruntlement and consternation inside of the organization, you become a beacon of light.
That's beautiful.
That attracts other people. And so you can start your own movement inside of your organization to change what you do not like and to make it something better. And when you start acting out of your agency and showing others what is possible, they will be attracted to that and others will join your side. And before you know it, you'll have, this amazing transition happening. And I know that happens because I did it with companies during COVID. In the worst of it, we changed things in 90-day sprints. We're not talking about years of work. We're talking about 90-day sprints to just get in and really get people reconnected to values and vision and purpose and the things that speak to what we need as workers. We spend most of our waking hours and most of our adult engagement with people in the workplace. So it's important that we are getting something of value back from that. And when we don't receive value back in that equation, it's like flushing a toilet bowl. It'll just spin you down really fast.
Give us an example, Rita. I love all of this. It's so important. And give us something tangible we can grab onto. Maybe one of the examples from the 90, the 90, what am I saying? 90-day sprint.
The 90-day sprint?
Yes. Or just something or an individual even that turned around and shifted. So we can grab onto this a little bit more.
Well, one of the most important things to understand is that you have to take care of your own personal integrity. And I just read recently, after I wrote my book, I wish I would have read it first. It might have changed some of the content of the book, but Martha Beck just released this year an amazing book called The Way of Integrity that talks about this, about the importance of understanding your values and what matters to you and walking in your own truth about those things. And that is very much aligned with the message of Show Up Positive. So what we know is that when your values, your personal individual values, align with the organizational values, everybody wins. And when they are in conflict, you're the first to lose. Eventually, the organization loses too, because as you start to lose, then you start to withdraw. And as you withdraw, then the organization results decline. So that you can definitely see a direct correlation, and Gallup has proven this over and over and over again, between when you see engagement decline in the organization, you will quickly see your performance metrics follow suit. And so knowing what matters to you and showing up positive is standing for those values that you have and finding where those connect into the organization and making sure that those connections are firm and strong, and that because then you're going to find other people around you who share those same values. And when you have a group of people around you and you are in integrity around your values, and then it's going to be a happier place. It's going to be a more productive place. It's going to be a more fulfilling place. And so stop worrying about what everybody else cares about, and just start by looking inside of you. What's the one thing you need most? What I love to say, Karen, is be the coworker you wish you had.
Yes.
Whatever it is that you wish your coworker next to you would do, if you wish they would be more welcoming, because they, like you walk into the doors of work every day and it's like a crypt. Nobody says hello anymore. Nobody chit chats anymore. Just start being the welcoming coworker. You start the conversation. You start being that person. If you need people to be more honest, if you feel like people are not being honest in the workplace, then you show up as the honest coworker. Remind people what honesty brings to the table. And when they see that in you, then they'll know what's possible. And some of them will reach out and join you.
That's so beautiful. It's so true. It really does start with us. And isn't it so easy to look at someone else? Well, they need to do that, or, oh, the leadership, or, whatever. And it's such a human nature thing to blame other people. And that's just something I think is really important to acknowledge in a big part of the work that I do as well.
And the worst part is when we start blaming, Karen, we don't stop at blaming. When we look at management and we say, you need to fix management. I mean, I know a lot of people, you do consulting too. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, when you've gone in to do a workshop, have you taught this to our leaders? They need to know this.
I know, it's true.
But when you say, don't expect me to change until so-and-so change first, you just gave all your power to so-and-so.
Yes.
So you just anointed them king over you, and you say, I'm going to sit here in my misery and be firm in my right to be miserable until the president and CEO change their behavior. Well, you just gave them even more power over you. Like, why? Once you recognize that's what you're doing, why would you do that?
Yes.
Why would you ever do that? Because you are smart and capable and better than that. So don't give up the power. When I actually had a situation, and this is sort of part of my story for your audience, where I worked for an employer inside of an organization under a VP that did not walk the talk at all. It was a nightmare situation. And I chose to show up in discord to the accepted culture and actually walk the values that were espoused despite everybody else. At some point, it was just like, I got to look at myself in the mirror and feel good about who I am. And I'm not going to compromise these things just to fit in. Like, that's just not who I am. And so I just purposefully decided that I was going to do what I thought was walking the talk, regardless of what anybody else around me, above me, whatever did. And if that was going to cost me opportunity, then I just wasn't in the right place. So be it, right? I just was not going to compromise on some things. And that is showing up positive for yourself. And that's what I encourage everybody to do. When you start compromising your values to fit in, you've already lost.
Yes. And that is so aligned with my message too, around trusting your own voice rather than relying on other people or looking for permission. I think that's really powerful. Could you give us an example, Rita, of a client that you worked with, where they were before you were working with them, and then where they ended up?
Sure. So I would encourage people, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, but I actually had a client come join me for my book release party last Tuesday.
Oh, fun.
And so I just grabbed a snippet from their testimonial and put it out on my social media. And I've got a few, so I will be reposting those, but I will share sort of what they shared. This was a surgical center, and that I went in to work with in what was happening was exactly what I said. Management was trying to fix everything, and employees were looking to management to fix everything. They were bringing big old honking problems and dropping them on the desk. And then managers would then turn that into policy decisions.
Oh, right.
That the employees didn't like. So then the employees were doubly mad, right? So here's a great example. So there are certain chores that need to get done in a surgical center, you know, like fresh linens on all of the ambulatory beds and, you know, just tons of things and regulation things and cleaning. And you have all the extra cleaning they had to do because of COVID. And so there's a list of chores a mile long that need to happen every hour in a surgical center.
Okay.
And so the teams just always like that, they just made it happen. They just, you know, in between patients, hey, I've got a few minutes. I'll make sure this happens. I'll make sure that happens. But when people were so emotionally exhausted and they were in that place where they were stepping away, they were disconnecting from their workplace because they were in such a negative headspace, they stopped being so proactive to get things done. And they started scorekeeping. Well, I've already emptied that bin twice today. Who else is going to do? It's not my turn. I'm going to sit here on my phone and do what I want to do because I've already emptied that bin twice. I mean, these were conversations that they said we never used to do that, but they were scorekeeping. You know, it's not my turn, right?
So that's just something new from the pandemic.
Yes.
Okay.
So they go to management and say, well, you know, Rhonda is not doing her fair share. You know, we're always picking up all the chores. She's always on her phone in the break room, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, Rhonda's got 2 small kids at home. She doesn't have a nanny that day. She's got she's got all these other problems she's trying to deal with. She's not trying to be a bad coworker. She's in a bad situation because that's how bad it got. If everybody remembers at the start of COVID, you know, if you had older parents, you didn't want to bring them in your house because you might get them sick and they might die. But then other people don't want to come work in your house because you're out and about and you could get them, you know, I mean, there was like real problems that people were facing. And so what did management do? They started then assigning the chore list. You know, this week, your rotation, Karen, is A, B, and C. And, you know, Rita's rotation is D, E, and F. And these are the things that you need to do. Well, then people didn't like that. Well, that doesn't always work with my, you know, it's like, and I just looked at these poor employees and said, when you go to mom and dad, you get mom and dad answers. So if you want better answers, you guys need to come up with them as a team and implement them yourself instead of going to mom and dad. Because you're getting mom and dad answers, right? So that's just a simple example where, you know, we talked about the reality of what was happening and telling these leaders, you don't need to solve all these problems. The sustained right path is to get your employees engaged. And let me show you how to do that. And then we started to do, a series of work together where I had meetings with every employees. I got them together in department groups. I got them together in mixed groups. And, you know, we began to make connection points together and remember what it's like to work together and to problem solve together. And most importantly, to appreciate and have gratitude for one another. Mm-hmm. And so just little things like actually practicing with the intention each day of, I'm going to thank somebody at least 3 times during my shift today. I'm going to find three opportunities to just say thank you or some words of appreciation to somebody. Like really being mindful about those things. These are the small little things that we did, but these are habits.
Yes.
And just like you can fall into the habit of withdrawing to your phone and sitting in the break room and stuff, because you had so much stuff overwhelming you for a while that you needed that space. And now it just has become your default. You're not really thinking about it. You've forgotten what it was like to take that free time and actually do 3 or 4 little chores to help out your coworkers. We need triggers. We just need little reminders of that. And once you get people back to practicing that again and remembering that, oh yeah, that's when we found time to laugh together.
Oh,
We were doing those little things. Then people have a reason that is a natural reason. You didn't have to give them extra money or extra incentives. They just needed to find community again, right? So it's so hard to talk about some of it because there's such nuance, which is why I say very clearly in the book, there's a roadmap here, but I can't give you the 90-day sprint in a book form because it's so customized to each situation. Like, sorry, but you're going to have to spend, yes. $3,500 a month with me for 3 months for me to build that custom solution for your team. But that's not crazy, to get sustained results that you can, because that's always my goal, is to keep people.
Yeah. That's absolutely. And that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing the example, because it's so fun to see. And I love what you say about community and belonging, and that it starts with you. So I think that's powerful. And in the spirit of starting with you, I'd love to hear more about you personally now, if you don't mind pivoting to that a little bit, because I would love to hear so many women that listen to this are in senior leadership, and yet they still hold back from sharing their ideas. And I'm curious to know if you have an example of when you held back and wish that you had spoken up, or perhaps the opposite, where you went, oh my gosh, I spoke up when I might not have done that in the past, but maybe that isn't even something that you're challenged with. So tell us more.
I am not known to be a shrinking violet. That is for sure, Karen. So it's been, I've tried and tried to think of a time when I didn't speak up, and I really can't come up with one.
So tell us more. That's exciting.
I think that, and it's just part of that organizational development mindset. It's sort of geared into, I need to walk the talk. So if I'm working inside of an organization and I'm saying, these are the ways that we are better team members, these are the ways that we build better community together, I have to practice those things. And so if I'm saying to other people, you need to speak up, you need to ask for what you need, then I have to do that too. Like, I have to be the first to practice it. But I will say that there was a time when I got my colleagues to join me in speaking up, and it wasn't exactly delivered in the best way. It was sort of something that needed to be said, because they kept having these all department wide meetings with senior leadership. And it was all sort of this fake. It was fakery. It was just a lot of fakery, because the senior leaders would, stand up there and say all the right things. And then we would dismiss and we would go back into the workplace. And the one senior leader said to his team, don't trust any of the people that work for my peer, which happened to be my boss. Don't trust her people. They lie. They're just, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not good professionals. You need to do your own independent work. And it was like, we're all one function. We're all human resources. So if you're telling your people not to work collaboratively with these people inside of human resource, how are we going to bring solutions to our clients? I mean, it was just maddening. It was just crazy. Wow. And so we finally had a meeting with an outside facilitator, and we just said, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Like there's this war going on above us that is the elephant in the room that nobody is talking about. And nothing is going to move until they get together and work out whatever it is that they have going on. But it wasn't said quite that nicely. And I think the phrase that was used was the fish stinks from the head. Something that I say, which is from an old book, but and then I was like, oh, because I think when you have intention and you're clear, if your intention is to call somebody on the carpet, to have them lose face, to express your anger or resentment, those are dangerous intentions, and they will not look pretty on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if your intention is to create more commitment, to get more alignment, to build more connectedness with somebody, but you have to say something difficult in order to do that, but that's your intention, then the way you say things and you frame things, you're going to work to be heard, and you're going to spend a lot of time listening instead of lashing out. When our intention is to punish, we lash out. When our intention is to connect, we express ourselves differently. And I think that's why I've never had a lot of fear about speaking up, is because I could really do the work first on what's your intention here, Rita? What outcome do you really want? And whenever I found myself into language that was calling somebody out, I would dial that back.
Oh, that's a good tip right there. Yeah.
Because that's, if somebody is losing face, they're going to get into a defensive posture. And as soon as our defenses are triggered, we are not in listening mode anymore. Mm-hmm. So any ability any possibility that was present for connection, I just severed with my words. Mm-hmm. And I'm responsible for that. Like, I just contributed to that problem. So, but that's all it's part and parcel of my practice. Yes. And it's just a matter of internalizing those things. Mm-hmm. Now, in my personal relationships, that's a whole different thing. Like, when it comes to my family, my husband, there are some things that I don't say, for sure, where I don't speak up. And it's, it's different. It's a different mm-hmm. emotional investment.
Sure. Absolutely.
In those situations. And so I do try to have that grace when I'm working with a client, because some people do have that level of emotional connection in the workplace as well. Especially I've found working with CEOs and founders that so much of who you are and your identity can be tied up that it can make it a very emotional thing, just like it is for me with my family.
That's such a good reminder. Yeah. These really tight relationships at work that can be, you're emotionally invested. Well, I know we're starting to wrap up, but I'm wondering if you have because you are such a great model for speaking up, tell us where your self-doubt comes in, because I want to have people connect with you even more through your vulnerability. So wondering if you'd be willing to share, do you have doubt? Where does it show up? And then what have you done to overcome that?
I do. I think everybody has doubt. I definitely have doubt. And I have doubt in my voice. I had the idea for this book and I sat with that for months and just sort of, tested the water a little bit with people. I actually started writing content for the second part of the book, which is the Show Up Positive Sparks, to my email group that I was sending my blog to every week. I flipped my blog to content for the book, which then I didn't end up repeating in the book. So they've gotten a lot of Show Up Positive Spark ideas.
Oh, nice.
But just to see if my ideas were resonant for anybody other than myself. So language is such a powerful tool. It's one of the most powerful tools that we have. And I'm very particular about my language in my work.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to communicating as a business owner, so I'm a solopreneur, it's just me. And the place where I am least comfortable and least skilled is in the sales.
Got it. You're not alone. You know that
piece of it. And so a lot of people say, you got to name the problem, you got to grind the problem. And that's not the way I come at the world. It's not the way I come at my work. Fixing problems is pushing a noodle uphill sometimes. Sometimes you need to come from a completely different place and see a completely different opportunity. You need to just forget about that problem and go seize this other thing instead. And so I often find it difficult in the very early stages of prospecting to really find ways to connect with people, because I don't use those frameworks, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm always doubting myself and second guessing myself and going out into my network and looking for feedback and ideas and new language to use, because I don't think my words are good sales words, but they're true to me. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a good reminder about being true to yourself, trusting your gut. And you are so successful in relationship building. I mean, we've just started to get to know each other, and I am so impressed. And you are such a good model to follow around connecting, and you ask for feedback and just get people involved. You tag people and ask for their opinion, and not just, I don't see it as just, oh, here's a strategy, but I see you as legitimately wanting to hear from the people that you tag.
I don't use social media the way people are taught to. I don't, it's not a sales funnel to me. Mm-hmm. Social media and LinkedIn in particular has become my professional community. The thing I have missed the most in being a solopreneur is having my colleagues around me that I learn from and learn with and do great work with. And so I decided in 2018 that I wanted to find some new power partners and start building some relationships with other people where we could find ways to collaborate and do work together. Mm-hmm. And because I missed that collegialness. And I was sort of on the on-ramp of that journey, and then COVID hit. And so it just sort of got pushed to the side. And then I started the book journey. So that was all good. But but what happened is when everybody, well, not everybody, because my clients didn't all get sent home, but when the vast majority of professional workers got sent home and start to work virtually, they were suddenly there to be my community. Oh. And I jumped all over that. I mean, I threw myself in with both feet, and I started building virtual community with people. And that's what I have now. People talk about, and everybody has their own purpose and reasons. But when people are on LinkedIn and they're celebrating, I have 10,000 followers, or I have 20,000 people connections, or it's like, I couldn't keep up with 20,000 people. I can't even keep up with the 3,000, whatever I have, small number that I have already. But when I go through, I do this, which I invite your audience to join me. I do a live stream every Monday at 12:45 Eastern time for the Monday Minute. You can catch it in a replay. It hits Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But it's where I talk about these show up positive sparks, and I give you a word for the week to practice. This week we are practicing, let's see, last week was humor. This week was freedom for Juneteenth. practicing the word freedom. And so, so I do the Monday Minute show, and you guys are welcome to join me for that.
Yeah, it's very good too. I want to put a plug on that. And I love how you do it very quickly and efficiently, and you always add so much value.
So once I post that event out, then I can go invite, right? And when I start going through inviting, I'm like, oh yeah, I've talked to that person last week. Oh, it's incredible how many of the people in my list where I'm like, wow, I'm really doing a good job of staying connected with my community. And it's something I take great pride in. But I'm an extrovert processor, as you can tell. I get on podcasts and they go so long every time because that's just part of who I am. But I miss that. I love collaborating. I love having community around me, and that's how I use my social. And so I am genuinely, I'm not trying to get likes. I don't pay any attention to any of that stuff. I don't care. I really don't pay any attention to that.
That's freedom.
And it is freedom. It is my version of freedom. And at some point it's just like, I work part-time because I'm still a part-time mom. I still got one that I got to drive everywhere and do all of those things. And so I, still split my time between my responsibilities in my home and my responsibilities at work, and then my responsibilities to me and self-care and those kinds of things. And so because of that, and I'm not working in my business full-time, I don't charge crazy amounts of money to work with me. I can't afford to buy all of these services. Yeah. Somebody to run my social and somebody to do marketing for me and all these spin campaigns and all of that. I do everything organically. I do a lot of it myself. I am a creative person, so I find energy in some of the creative work. And so because I do so much of that stuff myself, I'm getting to know people, and I'm in real conversations, and I can't perfect the knowledge that all these experts have about how to leverage each of these things. And I can't afford to pay all of them. So I'm just going to be me. I'm going to keep it real. People will find me, people will know me, and people will recommend me and introduce me. And so I really deeply depend on those introductions from people inside of my community to help my clients find me and for me to find them, because I really am the worst sales person.
Well, tell us how we can find you. We need to wrap up. Tell us where we can reach you. Where's the number one place?
IgniteExtraordinary.com. Everything is on my website, all my social links, everything is there. So that's where you can find me. And there's a tab for Show Up Positive. You can learn about the book and the workshops and the speaking that I am doing. And I would love to meet you if you are part of Karen's tribe. I am certain that we will find commonality with one another.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you, Rita, for being here. It's always a pleasure to connect with you. I love your heart.
Thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate the opportunity.
And that's a wrap of another episode of Ignite Your Confidence. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other people find the podcast faster, and it certainly helps me. If you're interested in more tips and tools around confidence, please join me over in my Facebook group called Ignite Your Confidence with Karen Laus. Remember, you too can stand out with unshakable confidence.